So this autographed picture here of Mr. Fred Rogers, I actually received from a family member who knew someone that actually worked on the Mr. Rogers neighborhood television show back in the early 1980s. What's up, everyone? Movie Mania Nick here. Today I went to go see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. But actually on the show, he actually said, A Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood. It starred Tom Hanks, Matthew Rhys, Susan Kelechi Watson, and Marion Plunkett. And the director was Mariel Heller. So the movie is based on the true story of a real-life friendship between Fred Rogers and journalist Tom Juneau, which is the actual journalist that interviewed Mr. Fred Rogers. All right, guys, I went to go see this movie, and yes, of course, I enjoyed this film. Tom Hanks, holy cow, spot on for Mr. Fred Rogers. I can see why he's a tremendous actor anyway, whatever he does, but spot on as Mr. Rogers. He did a fantastic, terrific job. Everybody else in the film, I think, did a great job. But getting back to Mr. Tom Hanks, just his mannerisms and everything he tried to do to play Fred Rogers was spot on. It was perfect. The soothing voice, the calmness, everything. It just from the beginning to the end, it just actually felt like you were watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It really did feel like that. This film, it does get emotional. I actually teared up a couple times, because it is deep and emotional, and like it brought me back to my childhood, and people you think about when you lost somebody, and bringing that memory back, and there's one part in this scene where I know he did it for his acceptance speech when he won the award. He said, "Just 30 seconds. That's all we're gonna do. In a moment of silence, and just remember who the people who have taught you through your life. Just remember them." But it wasn't 30 seconds. It was actually a minute. And there was a part of the scene where, spoiler here, where he's looking at the other actor there, and then all of a sudden he turns and faces you, looking directly at you. And at first it's like, oh, wow. And just the emotion of thinking of my past and, my family members who passed away, and who's helped me through those years. And, it's, like I said, it was very emotional. Also, there was a lot of things of the show that was brought back. I like the cinematography, the storyline. I like how they used the puppets, the little artwork designs of the cars, the buildings, everything. It was amazing. It was amazing how they did this. It really felt like I said, you were watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but into movie form. And also how they brought back the clips from the show back in the 80s or 90s. How, for me, they showed the clips, but what they did was, and I'll say it into the fun facts, like they did with Forrest Gump and stuff. It was the real Mr. Fred Rogers, but then they put Tom Hanks's face. It's the real footage. And I'm like, my God, I remember that. I remember watching that show with how they made magazines, and how they made, other things, and talking about your feelings and the stuff. They showed one scene where it was the lady with the violins. I was like, I remember watching that. And just another little spoiler here. Also, there's another scene where they're in a Chinese restaurant, Mr. Rogers and the journalist. And before they even get to that, they like I said before, they have that one moment there of the 1 minute. But then they show customers in the store. And while they're showing customers, like they zoom around and then they stop. And it's kind of blurry, then it clears up. And who do they show? It's Mrs. Rogers, the real Joanne Rogers. and then for about like maybe 3 or 4 seconds, and then they pan over again, and they show this gentleman sitting there. Same thing. It's a little blurry, that they clear it up. Well, that guy is David Newell, or Newell, however you pronounce his name. He's the actor that played Mr. McFeely on the television show. I was blown away. I'm like, there he is, and there she is. It's a little fun fact before the fun facts. But overall, guys, if you grew up whatever decade or era watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood from the, from this, I guess the 70s. If I got that, I think it's the 70s, into the 80s, into the 90s. I highly recommend to see this movie. It's going to bring back probably a lot of fond memories. Maybe some memories you don't want to remember, but from your childhood, if you watch the show and it put you into that zone, you'll get a good feeling watching this movie. I actually did. So yeah, I highly recommend to see this movie. You can see it in the movie theater, or if you want to wait and watch it on Netflix, Demand, Hulu, or something else, by all means. But I definitely highly recommend check this movie out if you're a fan of Mr. Rogers, or if you watch his television show. And now it's time for fun facts. This movie is based on the article, Can You Say Hero? By Tom Juneau, which was published in the November 1st, 1998 issue of Esquire magazine. Also, Fred Rogers' widow, Joanne Rogers, has stated that Tom Hanks is the perfect actor to play her late husband. Days before the film premiered, Ancestry confirmed Tom Hanks and Fred Rogers are actually 6 cousins. According to producers, the film is not a biopic of Fred Rogers. Rather, it centers around journalist Tom Juneau and his experience interviewing Rogers and the impact it had on him. The puppets used in the film are not the originals, but are made by the puppet makers for Sesame Street. And finally, many archival footage of Mr. Rogers on famous talk shows have been edited with swapping in Tom Hanks instead. And that's it, guys. That is my movie review for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, smash that like button, support, share, hit that notification bell and notify you when my next video vlog will be up. Also, catch me out on Instagram under the same name, Movie Mania Nick. And as always, be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes!